Good evening, everyone. Rosh Chodesh just passed a few minutes ago, Thursday night, Parashat Kedoshim. I want to thank Chazaq for giving me the opportunity to spread Torah to the masses, and also to Torah Anytime for everything they do, for the thousands of shiurim that go out weekly all over the world for Klal Yisrael. So, big schusim for both Chazaq, big schusim for Torah Anytime, and obviously, Baruch Hashem, a big schus for me that I'm able to do what I do. So this week's Parashat Kedoshim. Now, before I even discuss that, I want to apologize in case I stop in the middle of for a few seconds, or in case I look like I'm in pain, because I am in pain. Now, I'm not mentioning this to get well cards from people or for Shleima wishes, but I just want to let you know that it wasn't even easy for me to come here tonight, because a few days ago I was away for Shabbos actually, and I borrowed one of the places I was by, a hotel, a scooter. And I needed to get somewhere because I didn't have a car. So I decided, you know what, I never used a scooter before. I think I'll try it. They gave out free scooters. My son said, come, I'll take a scooter with you. We'll go to the CVS. Basically, I think maybe, 20 seconds into my scooter ride, I was going 25 miles an hour, didn't know how to stop, flew off the scooter, landed on the cement, broke 2 ribs a few days ago. My hands are still all cut up and everything. And Baruch Hashem, I want to tell you, through the pain, and it is painful. It is 2 broken ribs. Really painful, but I thank Hashem through every second that night with the pain, because it could have been worse. And I was not wearing a helmet, which is really bad. I didn't think I would need the helmet. But the fact that Baruch Hashem, I didn't break my spine and chas v'shalom be paralyzed, or even worse, hit my head on the cement, is really a nest from Hashem. And it's a big lesson that if you have children or it's you, do not drive a scooter unless you're going very slow and unless you know what you're doing, and wear a helmet. That's first of all. So I'm just mentioning that. So it's hard for me to talk a little bit. It's hard for me to breathe in and out. I'm getting better, Baruch Hashem. But I will say, like I say, thank you, Hashem, that it wasn't worse, because it could have been worse. And Hashem watched over me, and like I said, through the pain, I owe Hashem, and therefore I decided I'm going to continue and not skip the shir this week, and we will continue with the shir. I did spend only a few hours on preparation for the shir, so bear with me if there's a little bit inconsistencies or that I'm not as clear as I normally am. So those are the things I first want to mention. This week's Parashat Kedoshim. So everyone knows the first 2 psukim of the parsha. People that even don't know Shnei Mikra as much as they should will remember these 2 psukim. But the first one is basic, that we all know. The second pasuk says, Daber el kol hadas b'nei Yisrael v'amarta aleim, and tell them, Kedoshim tiyu, be a holy nation, ki kadosh ani Hashem, because I am holy, Hashem Elokechem, your God. There's obviously many questions that arise here. But more importantly is, what is the pasuk teaching us? Kedoshim tiyu, become holy. What does that mean, be holy? What, keeping Torah mitzvahs doesn't make you holy? Following 613 mitzvahs doesn't make you holy? Listening to your rabbeim doesn't make you holy? Of course it makes you holy. So what is this Kedoshim tiyu? Be extremely holy. What does that mean? So that's always something that always bothered me, but all you have to do is learn a little bit, do a little research, and you get a certain clarity of what it means. Secondly, the question really is, Ki kadosh ani Hashem. We should be holy because Hashem says, because I am holy. What, Hashem wants us to be like Him? We have to emulate Hashem? Hashem is not in the same ball game as us, yet we're commanded, be holy because you have to be like me. Why does Hashem expect something that's impossible for a person to achieve? Thirdly, we know that it says in the Parsha, we do know it says that this particular situation of mitzvos were actually given behakel, with a group. That Hashem told Moshe, gather all of Klal Yisrael together. There were certain mitzvahs that were actually given in a group, but these are one particular times that actually the Bnei Yisrael were commanded all to be together, and that everything should be said. What's the difference? Usually, when Hashem told Moshe mitzvahs to teach on to Klal Yisrael, they were always first given to Moshe, then Moshe taught it to Aaron, Aaron taught it to Nadav and Avihu, then it went through Yeshua, and it went through the elders, and through those people, it was disseminated to the rest of Klal Yisrael. Here, Hashem told Moshe directly, gather everyone and say to them directly. So these mitzvos actually were said b'hakel in a gathering. And the question arises, again, another question is why was it done b'hakel? So we have three basic questions here. A, what does Kedoshim Tiyu mean? Why does Hashem expect us to be like Him, that we should be like Hashem, holy? And thirdly, why was this done b'hakel in a large gathering of all of Klal Yisrael? So we're going to go to the beginning of the pasuk first, and it says, like I said, Darbel kol hadas b'nei Yisrael. First, speak to all of Klal Yisrael. So you can learn out from here two things. One of them I saw. The second thing I thought is what was being mentioned when I saw the first thing. I thought this is what he meant, and then I realized that's not what this Mefarish meant. So automatically I came to it on my own. So this is the two pshatim. Number one, that it was given in a group to teach Klal Yisrael a very important thing. When it comes for a nation to be holy, you need to be holy as a nation. It's not a one-by-one situation, because in anything in life, some people are growing, some people are falling, some people have lapses in their ruchnias, some people are having yeridos. Here, you need to be holy all together at the same time. You need to try to understand that when it comes to a holiness of a nation, we need to be all on the same page, pretty much as we can all the time. There's no time for one to fall, one not to fall. We need to somehow strengthen ourselves that we are holy as a nation. And where do we see? We all see it says Kedoshim Tiyu, but Lashon plural. It's a Lashon of not singular, but a plural Lashon. It doesn't say Kadosh Tiyah, be holy, and then Moshe was referring to each individual separately. Kedoshim Tiyu teaches us that we have to be, as a nation, together, holy. So I thought, what?
Possible?
We have to, you know what, let's hear, we're going to explain what it is, and then we'll see. It's not about if it's possible, it's about are we striving to become that. And I'll explain to you how that refers to, in a way, good question, of how we compare to Hashem. Now, I came up with my own pshat, that I thought this is what the pshat was, that why was it done b'hakel? To teach you, because we are here together, each Jew is responsible for the other Jew. In other words, obviously we're all responsible, but here, because it was said as a team, as a unit, as a group, that means that if somebody's falling, we should be more vigilant to pick up that other Jew when it comes to holiness. Therefore, that we should all be, it's almost like kaviyachal, I don't want to compare it, but almost like a basketball team. You have 5 players. If one guy's not holding his weight and not carrying his weight, the other 4 guys are going to come to him and says, this is a team sport. Baseball maybe not as much, but certain sports, I don't want to bring sports into this, it's more of a cohesive unit that has to be working together at the same time. It's not bowling, it's not, you need to be on the same page all the time in order to have a smooth flowing situation. Therefore, it was said b'hakel, to teach you that if chas v'shalom someone's falling, you need to make sure that he's not. Somehow, do your best, whatever that means, pick him up. Even though other mitzvahs you have to do it also, but here specifically more because Kedoshim Tiyu. Now, what does Kedoshim Tiyu mean? And before we get to that, we're going to get to how Hashem wants to compare us, that we have to be like Him. So I saw an unbelievable shot. You have to work on it. I did this only the last few hours, but I did see something very, very, I think, telling to me. That Hashem is teaching Klal Yisrael the same way I have no connection to you, the same way I'm a pirish to you, I'm separated from humanity in a certain way, the same way we're not on the same page, you need to be holy and separate that same way. In other words, be like me, that I am not like you. Be like me, that I'm Hashem and you're human. We're separate. You should be separate when it comes to holiness the same way I'm separate and holy from you. In other words, learn from me because you can't be like me. Learn from me because you can't be like me. So it seems like a paradox, but it's not if you think about it. So that's just basically that. Now, what does Kedoshim Tiyu mean? So there is a famous machlokes. Famous is not because I know it, because I've seen it in so many mefarshim that bring down this machlokes between Rashi and the Ramban of what Kedoshim Tiyu means. Rashi learns Kedoshim Tiyu means, and I'm going to read the Rashi actually. The Ramban I don't have with me here, but I'll read the Rashi for you. Kedoshim Tiyu, Rashi says, have a portion min ha'arayis or min ha'avera. Separate yourself from arayis and from avera. Shekol makom, every situation and every place. Sha'ata moitzi geder erva, ata moitzi kedusha. When you see a fence, a geder of erva, where a person has to be exceedingly away from a situation of erva, we see the element of kedusha. And does he bring down rayas? Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Anyway, I remember I didn't go through the Rashi this week. So the essence is that when it comes to erva, we have to be careful. So I had an issue with this. I didn't understand what that means, because to me, personally, Shmiras Einayim, you have to do that anyway. Keep away from situations that can lead to erva. You would have to do that anyway. Why is that Kedoshim? Where is the holiness of that? That's common sense. That's regular mitzvahs of the Torah. What is the Torah talking about here? What is the Torah talking about here? So I want to explain to you that there's something called, now Rashi, people make a mistake in this Rashi. I want to tell you, I haven't seen it in the Rashi, maybe the other diukim in the Rashi, that prepare yourself with mutalach. Keep away from even things that are mutalach. Even things that are permitted to you, you should stay away from. I didn't see this in Rashi. I know the Ramban actually does use it on his pshat. The Ramban actually uses that even something that's mutter to you, stay away a little bit. Kedusha, separate yourself, be porish from it. And we're going to get to the Ramban in a minute. But I did not see it in Rashi, even though people actually say that it seems like that's what Rashi is saying. But it could be Rashi is saying that, but I don't see it in the words. That even things that are permitted to you, you need to stay away from. Now, what does this refer to? So I was debating it a little bit. I looked up a little bit. I called my brother up. So we did come to a conclusion that even things that you would normally be allowed to do with your wife, you should be careful with. Now, I had an issue with that. I didn't understand it because manavshah, if it's something that you're allowed to do with your als ishos, then that's shalom bayis. So why would you have to not do something that would normally create more shalom bayis? So I discussed it a little more with my brother, who knows a lot, and I always go to him for questions. And basically, we came to a conclusion that it probably refers to gedarim, a geder. What does a geder mean? Don't put yourself in situations. Don't put yourself in situations that could chas v'shalom somehow lead to a possibility of something happening. For example, a guy's a businessman. He goes to Manhattan. Is he allowed to deal in business with a secretary? I'm sure if there's a secretary in an office, he can tell her I'm here to see the boss or discuss the business or wherever it is. There's a woman that's involved. I'm sure you'd be allowed to. But be careful. Be careful. Even though it's permitted, keep your eye in your head and use your seichel. Keep yourself holy, even in things that are mutalach to you ba'arayas. So this is what I didn't say that's completely the pshat. That's definitely part of the pshat. Now with that, and then I'm going to go to the Ramban, and then I'm going to tell you two beautiful stories I got from the Medrash on being careful of what it means to be careful with arayas, in the inyane arayas. The Ramban learns that Kedoshim to you means, where I told you, things that are permitted to you. Eating is permitted, sleeping is permitted, and we can go list on and on of different things that are permitted to a person. But even when something's permitted, be careful. Be careful. Minimize your desires. Minimize, you're allowed to have this, maybe don't eat that. I had a Rosh Yeshiva, Reb Chaim Epstein, who used to do something called Tainis Harayvid. And what was the Tainis Harayvid? Whatever dish he was ever served, he would leave over, I'm not sure if it was a third, I think a third. He would leave over 1/3 of whatever he ate in the corner of his plate, even though he was served it, even though he can eat it. Could be it was a small portion. But he would put aside 1/3. I don't eat this. I don't eat this amount. What? He paid more not to eat it. The chiddush isn't paying to eat it. The chiddush is to pay and not eat it. To control yourself. That's the bigger chiddush. So I will tell you that a person has to be able to, in things that are permitted, over there he says it, the Ramban uses a lashon of menuvel b'shus ha'torah. I always thought menuvel b'shus ha'torah referred to something else, but menuvel b'shus ha'torah refers to things that are permitted, and you're gluttonous over it. You overdo it, like Shabbos. I'll give you an example. You know what? I don't know if Shabbos would fall into that category, but a guy who eats non-stop on Shabbos, excuse me, I don't know if that constitutes oneg Shabbos. I don't know. If a guy sleeps the whole Shabbos because you're allowed to sleep, maybe that's overdoing it. Maybe you don't need those hours. It's not the point. Speak to your local Rav, to your local Mechanech, to your Mashgiach, where everybody holds and what he should do. Now, what I really want to focus on is on the holiness of a person being careful in arayos. And the two people, the two stories that I want to mention, one of them is a Medrash Rabbah, and the other one is a Yalkut Shimoni, but they both refer to Yosef. You know, if there is a human being, the Gemara tells us that, a human being that achieved the highest level of Kedusha in the most difficult situations and never gave in, it was Yosef. Chazaq, Gemara says that if a person goes up to Shemayim and he says, listen, I was a Baal Taiva, I was a good-looking guy, I was this, I was that, I fell, I couldn't control myself. He's actually going to be said, are you more beautiful than Yosef? The answer is no, even if he thinks he was. More beautiful than Yosef, everyone thinks he's more beautiful than the other guy. But more beautiful than Yosef, he was not. And therefore, a person is not going to have a pischan peh to say, I was too involved to stop. So the two midrashim I want to bring down is the Medrash Rabbah. The Medrash Rabbah in Parashat Vayechi that talks about the greatness of Yosef and talks about how Yaakov Avinu was giving a bracha to Yosef. Now we do know there's a famous by the Sfardim, Parat Yosef, Ben Alayin. Yosef, yeah, the name, the eyeballs, the whole bit. Well, you get it. I had a student actually. I don't want to put anyone down that actually has eyeballs in his car, but I had a student seriously that had around 500 eyeballs hanging from his mirror over there, and I went over to him. I said, "Why do you have these 500? Eyeballs?" He said, "I have it because of ayin hara." So I said, "And if you had 400, you're worried about ayin hara?" So I said to him, "I'll tell you the truth. You don't have to worry about ayin hara, because anyone that sees all these eyeballs in your car is not giving you an ayin hara. Trust me, you're safe. But I'm not chasson putting it down. I don't know where it started from, where it originated. I do know that most of them are made by goyim. So, Arabs in Israel, I know they're the ones who make most of them. So, everyone on his own, if he feels it's protecting him, kol hakavod. Don't forget the element of Hashem when you do that. But anyway, so Yaakov Avinu calls over Yosef and he tells him, I want to tell you something. He tells Yosef, the ayin hara will never be sholet on you or your children. The ayin ra will never be sholet on you. And the question is, why? So Yaakov Avinu tells Yosef why the ayin hara will not be sholet on him. And he tells him like this. He says that because you guarded your eyes with the daughters who came to see you. The lashon is Ben Parat Yosef. He says something very beautiful here. That when the shvachos met Esav, when the children met Esav for the first time, it says the children went first, and then the shvachos went afterwards to bow down to Yosef, to bow down to Esav. But by Yosef, it brings down that he protected his mother from Esav even glancing on her. He covered her up in a way that when they went to meet Esav, he shouldn't notice her. Almost like he covered her up. And because of that, Chazal tell us that the ayin hara cannot be sholet on Yosef. Because the way he was so careful that Esav should not gaze upon his mother, chas v'sholem, and to be contaminated by Esav's gaze, or the fact that Esav would want to maybe, think about her. He was so careful out sneers for his mother. The Yaakov said, I'm going to reward you, that the ayin ra can never be sholet on you. And there was a parsha, I don't know which one it is, I didn't do the research on it, was Yaakov said a reward is going to be given to you, that you're going to have a whole parsha for you. I don't know what that parsha means, but that's not for now. Anyway, the Medrash continues, when Yosef went out, when he was king and viceroy in Mitzrayim, and he went out in the chariot, the daughters of the Malachim, Mitzitzoi would gaze upon him. They used to throw on him. They used to throw on him all their jewelry and their ornaments on him, so he should look up. He should look up and say, oh my God, who threw this at me? And it says, he never once looked up to them. He never ever looked up once, ever in the entire time he was in Mitzrayim to notice a woman that was trying to get his attention. Now try to envision this. You're torn away from your father, your Torah, your Rebbe. You're torn away from society, healthy, spiritual, the Shvatim society. You're torn away from that, right? Also, you're in the sickest place in the world in Mitzrayim. You could have been angry at Hashem, Chas v'shalom. You could have been lost, confused, falling in depression, sadness, easily have fallen. Forget about just looking up. I'm talking about even Chas v'shalom doing Averis. But never once did Yosef look up, and therefore he was blessed that he will have never the Yetzer Hara be shouldered on him. So we see the greatness of what Kedusha means and Gedarim for a human being to be very careful when it comes to Arayas. Be very careful. I'm going to tell you a little story. That's a little embarrassing for me, but I don't mind telling you. I didn't tell you where I went, where I broke my ribs. I have 2 broken ribs now. I didn't tell you where I went. I actually went after Pesach. My wife, who's a big Sheitamach, who works very, very, very hard, and she's very careful with her wigs. I'm not trying to advertise her wigs, but she's very careful with her customers to make sure they're happy. So she was working, besides preparing for Pesach, besides making Pesach at home, till literally an hour before Lich benching on Pesach, she was trying to make sure that all her customers are happy Pesach time. They come in beautiful for their husbands on Pesach. So she worked very hard. So my son, I have a son who's a very big tzaddik, and a big Talmid Chacham, very spiritual, never looks in the street, takes his glasses off, normal kid, in a very chashiv yeshiva in Lakewood, but he's really a mitzuyan. And we had a debate about going to Florida. My wife needed a 3-4 day vacation. She wanted to go to Florida for a few days, but she wanted for my son, who needs a break, because he learns 17 hours a day, including Friday and Shabbos and Sunday. Yes, his vacation is learning all day and night. So she felt he needed a break. I was very adamant not to take him for a long time, for years. I don't know why I gave in, because I didn't want him to walk through an airport. I'll be honest, that's me. I didn't want him to walk through an airport, especially not in Florida, and I definitely didn't want him to get out of the airport in a place like Florida. And I was right. He was careful. I mean, he took off his glasses, and he needs a big prescription. He walked in the airport. We walked him, and he's a normal, healthy kid. Believe me, he's a darkey boy, very healthy kids. But he's very makbid. He doesn't want to Chas v'shalom see, and it wasn't good. Not for him. What I had witnessed just walking in the streets. I went to a very frum hotel. The altar, I don't know, very frum. Everybody there is good and stark. But for the few people that walked into the lobby that were not dressed normally, not Jews, Goyim, it's normal, they're walking around like in a bathing suits, and then so I need to expose myself or my children to this. So my wife actually told me, I didn't think she told me that we can't come here ever again. We're gonna have to figure out what to do. Goes, how about an Eretz Yisrael? How about walking in the streets? It's not the same. Anyone that goes to a surf site over there, walks in the streets over there, has an idea. But we're not going to get that. I'm not putting down anybody. I don't need to. But the next thing I want to bring down is the Yalkut Shemaini. And then we're going to get to the Ramban, and then we'll end. Give me this another 5-6 minutes. So the Yalkut Shemaini on Parashat Vayechi goes like this. Let me see, where is it? I have it here somewhere. Oh, probably right after this, actually. Yes. Ben Parat Yosef, Malamet she'ein ayin hara shoytlus bezara shel Yosef, that the ayin hara cannot be shoylet, cannot rule over the children, not just Yosef, the children of Yosef. Beno Seida Ali Shori brings down the pasuk Shoyim Mitzriyos Benois Malachim Avakshim Lirois Pnei Yosef, to see the face of Yosef V'loy Tola Ein of Ba'achas Man, and he never noticed even one of them. V'loy Hira Ba'achas Man, and he never thought about it. Now obviously you never saw it, how you're going to think about it, but he didn't even envision a dream in his mind what it could look like. Okay? L'kach Zochel Yarish Nei Elamim, he was Zochel to Tor Elamim. It doesn't say what the Tor Elamim are, but he was Zochel to Elamim. Now, the point I really want to bring down is a story, and I'm sure some of you know the story, and I say it in public school. You should know, I said it today in my public school. I go to public school clubs. I'm Zochel to go into the Lion's Den. I want to tell you, it was very interesting today, because I went into QSI. Now, I'm sitting here dressed like this, yeshiva guy, frum guy. Nobody said a word to me. I'll be honest, no one said a word as a Jew. No one said a word to me, but I felt. And it wasn't just in my mind. I saw the eyes looking at me. There were a lot of Islamic girls there, a lot of Arabic girls there, a lot of people that are not even Arab, just don't like Jews for no reason. You know what I'm saying? For whatever reason. And I felt the gaze. But for me to walk into this public school, and I felt like a melech. I felt like a king. I almost felt kaviyachah like Moshe and Aaron when they went through the gate, through Mitzrayim, to come to Parai, to save the Jewish people, I'm sure they were looked at as issues. I'm sure there were issues when they were walking. But you know what? I'm sure Moshe and Aaron felt like kings. I felt very holy. Going into these public school clubs, teaching Torah, and walking out knowing that I went into the lion's den, and I was zeicha to save, to at least give Torah over to these children. But anyways, I said over this story, I felt it's Kedoshim. I said, let me say over the story. So the story goes like this. The story of Masi ben Cheresh, that he was sitting in the Beis HaMedrash all day and all night, and he was Isaac in Torah, he was learning Torah day and night. The radiance of his face was the radiance of the sun, right? The cluster panav, and the essence of it, I don't know what that exactly refers to, but almost like the mask, the structure of his face was also, the cluster panav was zeicha to malacha esharis, which is interesting because they don't have a cluster. But malacha esharis, shemayamav le'nasa eina le'isha ba'olam. He never ever saw a woman and his wife. That just doesn't refer to his wife, and just doesn't refer to his daughter. I don't know if he had daughters, but it doesn't refer to those people. It meant women that were not permitted to him. Okay? Pam achas, one time, over Satan v'niskanabai. The Satan, now what does it mean, Avabai? I love this little shyness. Avabai, like he's probably going through his paperwork over his files. He went Monday to work, and he's going through his files, who he can get tomorrow. And he's Avraham Masi ben Cheresh. It comes across from Masi ben Cheresh, and he heard about him. What happened? Niskanabai, he was jealous. Amar, he said, Efsher, Adam Kamoizeh, is it possible this child, this human being, there's a person like this, that he never sinned in his life? Is it possible this person never sinned? Amar lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He went to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he said in front of the Eibishter, Rebbeinu Shalom, Reb Masi ben Cheresh, Mahu Lefanecha, what is he to you? What is he to you? Where do you hold it? Where do you hold of him? Amar Loi Tzaddik Gamarhu. He is a tzaddik, complete tzaddik. Tell you, it's a nice title to have on your resume, or if you need someone to call up for you, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls you a tzaddik Gamer. He's the one vouching for you. Amar Lefan of Tainli Rishus. He tells the Eibishter, he knows that he can't do it because he's so holy with Masi ben Cheresh. The Satan couldn't even attack him unless Hashem let. The Satan couldn't attack him or try to get him unless Hashem let. Amar Lefan of, he said to the Eibishter, Tainli Rishus, give me permission, Asyasinu, and I will test him. I'm going to test him. I want to see. Amar Loi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, go, test him. Yes. You can go, but you will not be able to get him. And you're not going to go anyway. He appeared to Masi ben Cheresh as a woman that we can't even imagine. No one should try to imagine. No one tried to envision, to have a dugma, but a woman that was a beautiful that we can't even imagine. We just can't imagine. Not that you should imagine, but even the malachim fell because of their beauty, appeared to him. Right? And he goes through the pasuk. So he appeared before him on the right side, and he turned his face. He went to his left side. He put his side to the yamin. And went on back and forth. Amar Masya said, I'm worried. Maybe I'm worried that I might look at her. So what did he do? What does this tzaddik do? The Talmud that was taking care of him at that moment, at that time, he said to him, Lech go v'hevili eish v'masmer. Go get me a fire and a spike. Go get me a spike and a fire. He v'iloi masmer, and he brought him spikes. And he put them both in his eyes, and he poked his eyes out. He blinded himself. Even Shira Satan Kach, when the Satan saw this, he shook, and he fell back and he disappeared. But HaKadosh Baruch called Rafal. Go heal Reb Masi ben Cheresh. Hashem said, I want you to go heal him. Rafal came before Reb Masi. Who are you? Reb Masi said, who are you? He was blind. Not that he wouldn't be able to see, but he couldn't see. In his Kedusha level, he couldn't see him. Ani hu Rafal. I am Rafal Shashachana HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oh, he didn't even want to notice who it is. I am Rafal, not the woman. I am Rafal Shashachana HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Rapoi Sasei Necha. I am the Rafal that Hashem wants me to heal your eyes. Amalai Henicheni Mashahaya. Leave me. Whatever it was meant to be. I want it to be. Leave it. Let it be. Chazul Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He went back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Amalai Fon Rebbeinu Shalom Kach V'Kach Amalai Masya. This is what he said to me. Amalai Lech V'Amalai Ani Arev Shaloi Yesh B'Yetar. I will be his guarantor. Tell him I will never test you again. Immediately he was healed. Whoever does not look at women, for surely the Eishas Chaveroi with the wife of his friend, the Yitzhahara cannot be shaylet on you. Will never be shaylet on a person. Now, why would you think you'd be allowed? Why would you think you'd be allowed? I'm saying, why would I think? Oh, if you don't look at the, we're not talking about looking badly. We're not talking about looking in a lustful way. Even regularly, be careful. You can't just have conversation. The Mishnah in Avos says, a person should be careful. That doesn't mean he shouldn't show love to his wife. That doesn't mean he shouldn't be there for his wife. That doesn't mean he shouldn't take her, go walks, go on vacations. That's not what the Torah is referring to. The Torah is telling you, be aware that too much of something is never good. Too much of something is never good. And a person should be makbid and careful that when it comes to this situation of a rayas, a person has to be vigilant, more than normal, more than regular. Don't just think, I'm human, don't worry about it, I'm not worried. You know what, I'm not going to fall, I have my eyes in my head, I get it. Many people have said those same words, and I know many people, nebuch, that have fallen when they really shouldn't have, if they would have been more careful. A person has to think, especially you go into places like Manhattan. I have friends of mine, very wealthy friends, I'm talking about almost in the $1 billion level, if that's called wealthy financially, that I have a friend who will never walk into Manhattan. He has a business deal, either you do it on the phone, either we Zoom it. I'm not even walking into Manhattan. I'm not going in with a car, I'm not going there. I have a friend that does this. And he's very makbid. He's very makbid not to go to certain places. That doesn't mean a person shouldn't go places. What it does mean that we have to be on guard. We have to watch ourselves. I didn't even get to the Ramban's pshat. I'm going to end here. But I didn't even get to the Ramban's pshat, what it means to be pirish, even in things that are permitted to you. So I'm going to leave with this. But my point is, this goes for me. This goes for this less. You know, why did I even go into this? Not because I'm Baal Aveir. It's a good feeling when you learn, go through a parasha, you go through something, and you strengthen yourself. You strengthen yourself to be more vigilant, even if it only lasts for a day. If it lasts for an hour, if you're vigilant for 1 hour, you accomplish for that hour. You should know, when I drive down Central Avenue, I live in Barakaway, people are walking in the streets on both sides. In summertime, people are walking especially. People are walking Friday afternoon, Central Avenue packed with people. I'm telling you now, I'm not telling you, I'm always very careful not to look purposely, but I remember sometimes I'm driving and your eye catches something. Sometimes you see people walking, and I say to myself, don't look, if it could be something, just don't look. The feelings, the empowerment that you get when you do something like that is instant gratification. You feel amazing right away. It's incredible. It's not like you have to wait for Hashem to reward you. As soon as you say to yourself, I'm not looking, I'm going to be more careful. When I go into a store and there's a cashier, a lady behind the counter, and you say to yourself, obviously you have to be friendly, obviously you don't want to come across as a lunatic, I get it, but there's ways to do it. You don't have to extra conversation. You can look away even one time, like just for a second, and then look back just to show that you made yourself a gather. Very important. Kedoshim Tiyu, Rashi is teaching us that even in things that we call normal, you have to be normal, you got to be part of society, you shouldn't be known in the streets as a fanatic or a crazy person. You're allowed to be Kedoshim Tiyu b'mutalach, even in things that you would think are permitted and things that are not the end of the world. You want to make sure it doesn't lead to the end of the world. I wish you all a good Shabbos. Like I said, I didn't even go to the Ramban's trial. I'll save it. But the Ramban does learn that a person, even in Torah and mitzvos, should be careful in the way he does mitzvos. He shouldn't be gluttonous. He shouldn't overspend. He shouldn't live his wealthy lifestyle. And that's what he calls Kedoshim to you. Anyway, everyone have a wonderful Shabbos, and thank you for joining.